guys, Kevin Bupp here, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast. Our mission is to help you build and maintain massive amounts of cash flow through income producing real estate investments. Now, our guest for this week's show is raw land investment expert Brent Bowers. Now, Brent specializes in the investment of raw tracts of vacant land. As an Army officer with over 8 years of service, Brent was spending a great deal of time away from his family, and he knew he needed to make some changes in order to be more present with his wife and children. And once he was back in the States, Brent quickly expanded his business, hired a team, and most importantly, spent quality time with his family while still working hard and helping others. Now, Brent invests in many different types of real estate, but again, his favorite investment strategy deals with buying and selling vacant land. And so with that, guys, it's an honor to welcome Brent Bowers to the show. Brent, how you doing today?
Kevin, I'm good. We finally made this happen. I know we've been trying for about 6 months now.
I know. We're here. That's all that matters, right? So I think it's going to be worth the wait. So let's. I'm excited to have the conversation here with you and learn more about your business. I know before we start recording here, we just you give me a brief kind of rundown of what it is you do, but and I'm excited to get into that and kind of dissect the business model a little bit. But before we go down that path, for those that are tuning in that might not be familiar with you, Brett, or your story, or how you even found your way to this niche asset class, maybe take a few minutes to tell us more about yourself.
Yeah. So I was in the military working crazy long hours, like a lot of people listening to podcasts to and from work. I too was that person in 2015, preparing for my third combat deployment. I was going to be away from my family for another year. This time there was a brand new baby involved, a new marriage involved. The first one didn't really go so well with being gone all the time with the military. And I just couldn't keep stomaching that. So I had to find an answer. I was listening to the 4-Hour Work Week on Audible by Tim Ferriss, searching for answers on podcasts. And I heard about land investing. And I was like, wait a minute, this guy is talking about doubling his money overnight. And if half of what he says is true, I am all for this. This is my way out of my W-2 job. This is my way out of the military. And I just hit the ground running. I started taking action really quickly, started mailing landowners, and the rest is history. That was back in 2000, I think early 2016 when I first did that first land deal.
Okay, fantastic. And that is what you do full time today, correct? The land business?
I do full time today. I've got one we're buying this next week, actually. 2 we're selling this week. Yeah, I'm a full-time land investor. So really, honestly, I haven't had a real job since like 2018, but
well, that's exciting. Well, congrats on the success. And so let's dissect the business model a little bit. I know that there's many different approaches to take, but maybe from a high level, I know you kind of explained, like, you buy raw tracts of land, you typically turn around and sell for a profit, but help us better understand what that means. I guess maybe, and let's start with what type of land. I mean, some might paint their own picture of like what raw land means. I mean, how big are these sites? Where are they typically located? Are these large, massive tracts of land? Are they, an acre a pop? Just give us some more intimate details, if you would.
Generally, the stuff I've done lately is under 3 acre parcels. Actually under 5 acres, 5 acres or less. Now that I think back a little further, those are my best. And if you wanted the definition, I would say like infill buildable lots, the stuff that's close to road access or close to actual asphalt, with water and electricity close by. When I started, I was doing more like rural, in the middle of nowhere type land. The utilities weren't as accessible, and it was a little harder to sell that land, but I sold it. I always sold it. I've never had a piece of land that I couldn't sell, because most of the time I'm selling the stuff on seller financing. So I'm letting Americans or people make payments. And how do Americans think? They think, how much is it going to cost each month? Most Americans. A friend of mine just bought a brand new F-150. I was like, that's a sweet truck. Like, what did you pay for that? He goes, I don't know. It's $750 a month. So I was like, okay, point proven here. But as far as an example is, here's a kind of a quick, nutshell of my business. I'm looking for land that's in demand. I want to know where the land is selling, where these parcels of land is selling for. And you can use free resources like Zillow and Redfin, and you can really zoom in on where these areas of land are selling. Like, look at Florida, like all over right now, land selling in Texas and Alabama and Tennessee. And like, you can see the little hot pockets. So I'm going in and analyzing, and I say that to make myself sound smart, but I'm really looking to see what size parcel selling, how much per acre or how much per square foot it's selling for. And the third thing, the thing that's worth a lot of money, is who is selling that land. The listed by and the bought by agent. That's your land specialist real estate agent. And once I know that, I'll pull a list of that exact neighborhood for those exact size parcels and send these landowners what I call my LOL, my land offer letter, for the price that's going to give me a nice profit if they accept that land offer letter, which is basically a purchase agreement. And I can even give that to the Sunrise Capital audience today. But once I know that, once I have that purchase agreement back, that's when the real due diligence starts. Okay, do I have it at the right price? Do I need to renegotiate? And during my inspection period, I'm going to be looking for a buyer for this land so I don't get stuck with the land.
Hmm. Okay, no, fantastic. So, no, I appreciate all that insight. Just to get getting a better understanding of maybe the pivot from rural tracts of land to these more infill and buildable, as you stated, buildable sites that are closer to asphalt, closer to utilities, what have you. Like what was the primary reason? Was it just because maybe the larger rural tracts of land were just more difficult to sell, or
Yeah.
wasn't as much of a guarantee? It took longer. Is that the primary reason?
All the above. Yeah, it took longer to sell those. I had to be a lot more active to sell those. I had to go out and put signs out. I had to call the neighbors to see if maybe they wanted to buy it. Literally answering 100 Facebook buy, sell, and marketplace messages. Is this available? And I was like, wait a minute. Like, why am I not using more real estate agents for these parcels of land? Well, I'm not seeing a lot of real estate agents sell these parcels of land. And then I started thinking, it's like, why don't I become an order taker or go where the demand's at rather than trying to create demand? I always sold these parcels of land eventually, but
Hmm.
why not take half the work off my plate and let real estate agents sell this land? Because I was paying 2 virtual assistants full-time salaries plus a full-time guy to call all these leads back. And I was like, wait a minute, what if I just hired people that were 100% commission only? And if they don't go out and hunt and kill, they don't eat, AKA the real estate agents. So
Right.
that put me into a different category of land. And I started buying those parcels. And now, now that I built up the confidence and the cash flow and the lending available to me, I'm now even going into higher, more expensive parcels because, it takes the same amount of time to make $100,000 land deal net profit as it does a $10,000 net profit land
Hmm.
deal. And sometimes those even smaller ones where you make less than 10,000 take even more time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you there. And so, on the front end of this, on the acquisition side, I know a lot, banks don't necessarily like lending on just raw pieces of land. If you're not intending to build something, get a construction loan, or if there it's not underlying cash flow. And so, how are you funding these different deals? You've got kind of private capital sources, or what's the best approach, or what is the approach that you take? I guess the better
Yeah,
question.
great question. And let me tell you, that gives us so much opportunity in this land business that banks aren't lending on this, because when landowners have to sell this land, they have to give us a pretty good discount or allow us to make payments. And I shoot for principal only payments, aka 0% interest. So as far as how I'm getting the capital to buy these, I started with a really small parcels of land, like junk properties, and I just kept building up. The first one was $285 and flipped it for 5,000, and the second one was for $500 and sold it for $5,000. But I got 500 down and 400 a month, and so I was kind of simultaneously building up my cash reserves and paying down credit cards and all that stuff I came into this with debt, while simultaneously getting passive cash flow or passive income. And it's
Hmm.
not like a rental where I was getting $400 a month on that second land deal, where a rental is like, okay, I'm lucky if I'm getting $200 or $300 a month net positive cash flow after property management and and mortgage and insurance and taxes. What if there's a repair? Like, it's always more than that $300 a month you're collecting, but the
Sure.
land, nothing ever breaks on it. So I was self-funding for a long time. And then I started getting more confidence, and I started telling other people what I was up to and sharing it on social media and talking to my friends and family members about it. And I started hearing about people that had cash on the sidelines, cash in their bank accounts, cash under their mattress, cash in the stock market where they're freaking out when a CEO makes a stupid remark and their stock goes to nothing. So with land, I love working with private lenders on my land. Like one of my best lenders is my mother-in-law. We pay her 9% interest. She's in the first position on the land. So if I don't pay, she takes the land back, and there's usually a buyer on the other end. We get her a lender's title insurance policy. We never touch her money. It goes directly to the title company. So that's how I've changed from my real estate investing to more of a land business, because other private lenders are funding it, and I'm sharing in the profits.
Got it. Got it. And then as far, finding these deals, you send a letter out that's more of it's an offer letter. What is how are you arriving at it? Well, actually, I think you kind of answered that question, like how you're kind of arriving at the value, at least what things are, selling for or listed for. So you have a general idea of overall value. Um, how are you arriving at your offer that you're putting in that letter? You going one by one on each property, or are you just trying to take a broad
Oh,
brush approach and 65% of what I think the average value is? How's that work?
yeah. I used to come up with it like, okay, today I'm going to offer 10 cents on the dollar for these areas where I can sell the land for like 10,000. So that means I need to get it for like $1,000 to be profitable. Now I take a little bit different approach. Just like, okay, if the retail value is selling for 100 and I want to make at least $10,000, then I got to figure in closing costs and realtor fees and yada yada and a little bit of marketing expenses. Okay, that means I need to be about 70 cents on the dollar for these $100,000 parcels so I can make a quick profit before figuring in interest if we sell or finance. So that's kind of how I'm coming up with my offers. And no, I'm not doing one by one. I'd like to chunk it down to a neighborhood. Okay, so this neighborhood today, I noticed that 10,000 square foot parcels are selling. That's the majority of the parcels of land that are trading in this area. So today I'm mailing the 10,000 square foot parcels. Tomorrow I'm going to mail the half acre parcels. The next day I'm going to mail the 1 acre parcels until I exhaust that entire neighborhood.
Got it. Got it. And then these neighborhoods that have this a larger number of vacant parcels, are they more in like tertiary markets? Are they really close to the primary market? Like just a general idea of like I know they're not completely rural in the middle of nowhere, but like give us a
Yeah.
better understanding of like kind of what you target, the areas that you target.
Yeah, I'll
You
tell
don't
you.
have to you don't have to share the secrets of like these neighborhoods are hot right now. You don't have to do that, but
Yeah.
just so we have a better understanding of the business model.
Well, there's no secret. It's if you get on Zillow and Redfin, you can see the neighborhoods that are hot. Like you'll see where the land's selling. If you go to all filters, land only, sold in the last 30 days, those are the areas I'm going for. I don't care if it's a tertiary market. I can't even say that word. I don't care if it's in the middle of nowhere. I don't care where it's at.
Yeah.
I just need to see land selling. Preferably when I teach people how to do this too. I like to see people start out in their own backyard if possible. And when I say their own backyard, within like a 3-hour radius, so you don't have to get on a plane to go and see this first couple land deals. But I want to see land selling, to where I can figure. I don't care if I have to go 3 months back. Now 6 months is starting to push it a little bit. There's a lot of changes in this market. I want to buy at today's prices. That way I'm getting a discount on today's prices, not a discount on last year's prices, because things can change pretty quickly. And what if the market does change? Well, if I got it at 50 cents on the dollar, then that's quite a bit of a change. And I can still farm it. I can still build something on it. I can still grow or put cows on it, whatever. Now, not in the neighborhood, obviously. But, I don't really go into too much market research except for what are they selling for and where do I need to offer? Some
Got
will
it.
accept it, some won't.
What is the percentage acceptance rate that you get? You send out 100 letters, like or 1,000 letters, whatever that might be. Like what do you expect? I'm sure you got the metrics pretty tuned in now. It's probably not an exact science based on the neighborhood and the market, what have you. But what's the general rule of thumb?
Yeah, this is just a rule of thumb right now. For me personally, it's about 1,200 letters that gets one accepted land offer letter. That's going to make me a little over $10,000. I just had a student that sent 300 letters. I interview my students on the Wholesaling podcast. Like I do a case study from the beginning to end. How did you do your first land deal? He just did his first land deal, made $153,000 and sent out 300 letters. So we did
Nice.
the math. It's like, dude, you made $511 for every time one of those letters went out. And it's not like he wrote those letters. It was generated from a source. So it's just, everyone's numbers are different and every area is a little bit different, but I'm kind of giving you the average.
That's an expensive piece of land for his first deal, right? Like so he didn't really start small. He went after the more expensive stuff, it sounds like.
58 acres. Yeah, he bought it for like 150 and sold it for like 300 and some odd dollars, 300 and some $1,000.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So on the back side, on the sales side of these, you carry financing. I'm assuming the realtors that you work with, they probably love that, all right? Because that's probably not that's outside of the traditional just listed, and whoever's going to buy, it's going to have to go, either pay cash or they need to kind of be wanting to do something with it now, like build a home, so they go get a construction loan. But like more than likely, it limits their number of potential buyers. So you come into the fray, you basically say, hey, Mr. Realtor, like I'm going to sell this property. I know what the other ones are selling for in the area. I see that you've sold a lot, but I want to offer owner financing on mine. Does that make yours rise to the top typically?
Absolutely, especially, it's really easy. It's like when you're looking at houses, like this one has granite. Oh man, this one has a pool. And I think all houses have granite now almost, it seems like. Well, this one's got a pool, this one's got granite. No, that's none of that going on. This one's dirt, and this one's 10,000 less than this one over here. And this one that's 10,000 less is also offering financing, like no brainer, right?
Yeah.
So it opens the pool of buyers for sure.
And what's the typical term, as far as how long, how long are these loans? I mean, are they 5 years, 7 years? Do you have a certain, kind of, again, duration that you don't want to go past this mark, or uh, give me an understanding of what that looks like and how you arrive at that.
Yeah, I really try and follow what the banks do. And I learned it the
Okay.
hard because I had a bunch of short-term loans, like 1 year and 18 months, and I got my passive income to like about the same amount I was making per year in 1 month in the military. And a lot of those paid off because 12 months happens really quickly or 18 months happens really fast. So I was like, what are the banks doing? So I see the banks are offering 30-year mortgages. And if you look at an amortization schedule, and the first 5 to 7 years is pretty much all interest front and loaded. And why do the banks do that? Because they know people move or sell every 5 to 7 years. And that's almost has been the case with our land deals that we've sold. They seem to sell within about 5 years, or they'll either sell it or they'll get a construction loan and build on it, and the construction loan is going to pay me off. So we're getting technically like 5 or 6, 7 years of interest only payments that adds on to that profit. And when they pay off, we get a huge, basically all of our profit, and it's paid off, and we reset the wheel.
Gotcha. No, that makes sense. Have you noticed any slowdown, either on the buying side or the selling side, given some of the uncertainty in the market at present time?
Yeah, I mean, we just had a little slowdown in Florida, but it's summertime in Florida. In some areas has sped up. So it's kind of up and down. I'm not noticing a lot, as far as a slowdown. Well, actually, one place in Colorado that I was at a year ago, that did really slow down. So yeah, some areas have slowed down, and then I've got another area that's absolutely sped up.
Interesting. As far as servicing these loans, are you doing that internally, or do you utilize a third-party servicing company?
I use a software program. It's easynotetracking.com, and it's like $99 a month, and I have 69 notes in there. So it's automatically charges the late fee when they get late. So it's just tracks all of it. It makes it like my life so much easier.
Got it. Got it. And then talk to me about like default rates, but then also I think even the more important thing is it sounds like you do this in a number of different states, and so there's different compliance issues and regulatory standards you got to abide by. And so, again, default rate, but then also if someone does default, what does the foreclosure process look like? Or do you use some other type of instruments outside of just the typical deed?
Yeah, I did a lot of contract for deeds and land contracts in the beginning.
Hmm.
I'm trying to move away from those now that I'm taking bigger down payments. So we use a promissory note and a mortgage in Florida, or a promissory note and a deed of trust in Colorado. Um, so you have to go through the general foreclosure. But what I'm finding is the bigger the down payment, the less likely of a
Hmm.
foreclosure. When I was doing a lot of $1,000 downs, the default rate is like 20%.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And those smaller deals, were they defaulting like in the first 12 months, or did it typically like go on longer than that, or like just wondering how soon it happens. I mean, like, because like people that you spoke in the beginning of how a lot of your buyers make their decision. They make it on like how much they can afford on a monthly basis. Like they don't. It's like the buy here, pay here mentality. Like you don't sell it on total price. You sell it on monthly payments, and if they can fit it in their budget, great. But those lower down payment ones, the low, the smaller deals, any type of blip in their month, they get a flat tire in their car, or someone gets sick, or anything happens, they start cutting out expenses, and they prioritize them, and so they might prioritize this one fairly low. They're not gaining any value from it at present time, so they nix it pretty quickly. They just, what did
Exactly.
that time frame typically look like? That 20% default, how soon did it normally happen?
Yeah, I never track that, but I'm just going to
Okay.
go off like emotion, not data right now. It seems to be anywhere from like 6 to 18 months is when it
Okay.
happened. And some of
Got it.
these, we just took one back that we were quite profitable on. And we had reached out multiple times, text, email, phone call, voicemail, to figure out like, do we need to modify this thing? Or do we need to lower the payments? Do you need a little bit of a pause? Like, because here's the thing, we got plenty of land. We don't run out of land deals. And once we found the buyer, like I just assume keep that buyer paying, what, even if we had to like lower that amount by 1/3, you know, but they just ghosted us, completely ghosted us.
Interesting.
So luckily
What,
that one
what
was a cancellation of contract for deed.
was that one that had a larger down payment associated with it, or was it one of the
Yeah,
$1,000 ones? Okay.
it wasn't too big. It was a little bit larger than my $1,000. It was like, I think it was like $4,200
Okay.
down,
Yeah.
and they had paid almost $14,000 towards that.
Wow.
And
Interesting.
like, they did have something happen and their family, which was huge, and I won't mention on this podcast. Um, but it's just for them to not like respond, like, and that happens, like people's lives just happen. And I don't know if it's still they're in the grieving process or what, but I'll tell you, the ones we've collected over $5,000 and have done a promissory note and a deed of trust or a mortgage, those have been like just steady Eddie. Now, have there been
Hmm.
lates? Yes, those happen.
So would you say that the kind of the profile of your current buyers, the people that buy these more so infill lots that are already in, subdivisions, is their ultimate intent is to build a home at some point in
Yes.
time in the future, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. The intent's either to build, and sometimes it's just a builder that buys it. Like I just bought 6 lots in Florida and we had them listed one week. And I was like, I want to do seller financing on all 6 of them. Cash offer came in one week later. We were in them for I think 21 grand a piece. The cash offer was 36 or 35,000 a piece. And I was like, I can't pass up this offer. It's the first offer. They're worth 55 each, but I'm still profitable. I said, take it. Told the realtor, take it. So
Yeah, I mean, money in the hand is, I mean, that's spendable, and so that's sometimes you gotta take the opportunity and pounce on it, and I would say I would have probably done the same thing more than likely. Um, very interesting. So I'm thinking through this. My question about is the profile typically a home buyer, and I guess where my head goes then is like, well, like you want them to stay in for at least a couple of years, so you get a good number of interest payments coming your way. Again, talking about the first 5 to 7 years of a 30 am loan are front loaded with interest. Do you put any type of prepayment penalty in there, to so somewhat keep them from or dissuade them from just paying it off early? Like your price of your lot might be slightly less than the others. Maybe that's what attracted them, not necessarily the owner financing, but they got you to finance it, and then there's literally they're going to build, like they're going to start building next like 6 months and get you paid off like as soon as possible. Does that matter to you or?
No, I'd just rather get that profit now because I don't think any
Okay,
companies I've ever known that have went out of business, they didn't go out of business because they made profit.
that's true. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. No, just I'm curious. So
Yeah,
no,
a lot of
that's
people ask that. That's a really good question. Because I have one land deal that I, my mother-in-law lent me the money on for 40,000 and I had a buyer at 90,000. So we got $5,000 down. My mother-in-law's payment is 800 a month and she'll be paid off in 60 months, 5 years. And my buyer's payment is 942 a month and he'll pay off in 14 years. So if that buyer rides out that whole 14 years, we're going to make a little over $103,000, $102,000 with the payments, the down payment, and the difference. Because we collect 946, we pay my mother-in-law 800, so we really only keep $146 a month. But I had someone ask, like, "Man, did you do a prepayment penalty?" Heck no, because I'd like for him to get a loan to build on it. I'll just get my 50 grand today rather than wait,
yeah,
14 years for $102,000. But the payments are
yeah.
nice too, but it's really only $116 a month.
Right, right, right. No, no, I appreciate that. And so, we've been talking about like most of the more of the positive sides and all the the good things that happen. But how about give me give me I guess let's pros and cons. Let's give me some of the cons associated with the business model, or maybe some of the risks that those that aren't overly familiar with it, might be real in your business on a day to day. Like, just
Yeah.
what comes to mind?
Yeah. I'll tell you a con. We bought so much land so quick, and then we started taking some of it back for the default. I just had a conversation with my team, and I found out we had almost 16 parcels of land in Colorado just sitting there.
Mm,
And I even told my wife about it. I was like, man, we've got inventory stacking up. We got land in Connecticut, land in Tennessee, land in Arizona, where it's like I literally need either my assistant or myself or my acquisition manager to start finding these land specialist realtors and saying, look, here's the whole package. Like, get the photos and get them sold. So that's one of the things that's like, it's a little embarrassing. We're paying
hmm.
taxes on all this land and we have sold it and taken it back, or some of it was never even listed for sale. So little things like that, like when you're focused on other things, like it's amazing how these things can get away from you. And at one time, like I just wanted to do one real estate deal.
Right,
Now I
right.
look and I see parcels of land just sitting there. It's like it's actually shame on me. Like I'm not being a good steward of money sometimes. That's one of the negatives. Like, and then it's like you start winning fast and you start doing deals really quickly and making money, things will slip if you don't have like a standard operating procedure. Like you'll make rash decisions. You won't go look at the land or send someone to look at the land. And then turns out it's a swamp. Well, we should have accounted for that. Now I'll still buy swampland, but we need to get it at a discount, a really good discount.
Yeah, interesting. So thinking of like having realtors be I mean, like they're the disposition team. You rely upon licensed realtors in different states that you own. And have you found that there's a certain kind of floor, like a threshold of realtors just really don't have an interest in listing your $15,000 piece of property because like they're just not going to make any money on it. And then once they factor in their time, taking a number of calls, facilitating pictures of the property and writing up the commentary on it, it's just not, they're not going to make any money on it. Have you found that there's kind of a limitation of working with some of these realtors?
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't even call those realtors. Like I'm looking for realtors that are listing parcels of land just like mine in the area that I'm buying
Okay,
it.
got it,
So
got it.
if
So
they're
they've got
already
others
doing,
as well. Yep,
yeah.
that makes
And
sense.
you're right though. Like you have to go above, like preferably like above the $50,000 range to even make it worth that realtor's time. But I have a realtor, he's got 30 closings happening a month. And sometimes he's got to take those little dogs and so he can get the big ones. Like, and he's done it for me too. Like he listed one for me. It was 30,000, but now he's listing one for 335,000. So it's like up and down.
Got 30 transactions a month, huh? Just land.
Just
Very interesting.
this realtor,
Yeah,
and
you're right. Right. That's
I,
what I mean. Yeah, the realtor. But that's
he's
yeah.
the busy one. Like
I'm assuming he's listed for some like builders or developers as well that
a lot
actually
of
they have
land
some maybe
investors.
some, yeah, yeah, gotcha. What else? Brent, what haven't I asked you? That you feel like it's
I hate that
important for
question.
listeners to know about your business. I mean, for those that didn't know anything about this business model when they came into this call and might have an interest, might be intrigued by it, but I'm sure there's something that we didn't cover that would be relevant for them to know.
Yeah, I don't know. I always have a hard time answering that question. I like to talk about
How
action
about the
steps.
team? Let's talk about the team real quick. Like, what does your team look like? Maybe when you started, it was just you, but like, who's on
Yeah.
your team and what role do they play?
Yeah, it was quite the evolution. So it started with me, then I hired an acquisition manager, then I hired a disposition manager, and then another acquisition manager. Before I knew it, we had 15 people in an office and all this expensive stuff. And about a year and a half ago, I started tightening the belt, getting rid of all that extra stuff, that fluff. I read Profit First and hired a fractional CFO and started going through the expense list. Is like, is this profitable today or not? So I've really reduced. I'm down to a part-time executive assistant, a part-time in-house accountant, and a part-time acquisition manager, and that's my team.
Okay, that is slimming down. I like it.
Yeah, we rented out the office. Like, it's so
Would you
much, like,
would you
way
say
more.
that your transactional volume is about the same, more or less? I mean,
It went down because I was doing deals just to pay my team. And honestly, I was feeding my ego because I had all this extra time since I got out of the military. And I was looking at all my friends, what they were doing in real estate. And they're talking about all these transactions. And the thief of happiness is really comparison. So I
yeah,
just turned
I
all
agree.
that noise
That's
off.
great.
And we're way more profitable now. And I'm doing less deals, but bigger profitable, bigger margin deals. And I'm getting to keep most of it now.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that. How about for those that want to learn more about the business model, your business, what it is you do? Is there a good place to track you down?
Yeah, I'm pretty easy to get in touch with. First easy place, you can call me or text me on my cell phone, 863-801-6959. You can check me out at the landsharks.com, or I'm on all the socials as well. Brent L, and the L does stand for land. Brent L Bowers one. Brent L Bowers one.
And you'd also mentioned in the beginning, I think you'd mentioned about getting a copy of, maybe it was the offer purchase letter, or I don't know if you have like a link or something like that you'd like to share, but we'd love to share that with the listeners if you're willing to give it out.
Kevin, you got amazing memory. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I've been triple split testing this land offer letter, and it's working better than what we send, like these example checks and postcards, and it's working so much better than all of the others. So I'm strictly only focusing on LOLs. But yeah, go to the landsharks.com/LOL as in land offer letter, or laugh out loud because you just got a smoking hot land deal.
I love it. I love it. Guys, I'll put that in the show notes as well. I appreciate you sharing that, Brent, and appreciate you coming on and pulling back the curtain a little bit on your business and just providing tons of valuable insights for the listeners here today. So with that, my friend, I wish you all the best, all the success in the world, and hopefully we'll circle back here in sometime and check in with you and see how your business is going.
Thanks, Kevin. God bless.
Alrighty, guys, that's all we have for this week's show. So until we meet again next week, this is your host, Kevin, but wishing you huge success. Take care now.